Do you and your husband have different styles of parenting? Is one of you quite harsh and the other one softer? In today's podcast, I'll be discussing how we came about having these different parenting styles. And when we as parents have different parenting styles, how does that affect our relationship and our relationship with our children? And then I'll go on to talk about how we can work together and align with our husbands in our parenting approach so that we're not at extremes, and what to do if your husband isn't willing to adjust his parenting approach and look at the way he's doing things, but you can see that things need to be different. So it's a jam-packed episode of the Happy Home podcast today. You're going to love it when you and your husband disagree on parenting styles. Welcome to the Happy Home podcast, where we help Muslim mothers create success and happiness in their personal, professional and family life and raise their children as happy, pious and productive Muslims. My name is Sayed-Hossen and I am your host and the founder of the Happy Home Institute. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this week's episode of the Happy Home podcast. My name is Sayed-Hossen and I'm your host and the founder of the Happy Home Institute. And today we'll be discussing how to deal with the co-parenting situation when you and your husband are on different pages. You have your way, he has his, and neither of you agree with each other's parenting style. Now, this can be quite tricky because what then happens is the person who then takes the harsh parenting approach, the strict parenting approach will think, well, no, this is good. This is how it needs to be. This is exactly what my child needs. They need to be told, straight. They need it tough. They need militant parenting. It worked for me. And a lot of times you'll hear that this is what boys need. And they, if they don't have a very tough approach, then they're going to go out of control. But as a result, if you have this sort of parenting style, what you notice is fear sets into the relationship between, for the child. And the child becomes a little bit distant, but keeps trying to prove himself and get his father's validation, does things out of fear, but then behind the father's back, if it is the father being harsh, it can often be the mother too. But whoever the harsh parent is, your child starts doing things out of fear, but behind your back, does what they want to do. And if you're noticing that your child just goes and does what they want and hides it and lies about it, it may be that, fear has set in. So they're unable to really, do what they think is right, talk to you about it, find a solution, get advice, but instead just they go and do it by themselves. So that's what happens when we have a very harsh parenting style. But when we have a softer parenting style, and again, I'm not, I see this sometimes with mothers, but often fathers too. If they see the mother being too harsh, the father can become too soft. And, it's a gentler way of parenting, yes, but, where we're trying to understand the child, we're trying to make their life easier, we're trying to, cushion and protect them from life. We're more readily, when we have this sort of parenting style, be willing to forgive our children's shortcomings, pick up after them, things that they don't want to do. It's okay, I'll just do it. And so in that style of parenting, when we take, too much of the softer side, the child starts to realize that actually my parents are going to do what I want them to do. They'll give me what I want them to give me. I don't really need to do it because they'll do it for me. They don't really learn consequences either from that because you cushion their consequences so they don't have, life's lessons aren't really learnt along the way. Like I said, sometimes it's the father who's the softer parent and the mother the harsher, or vice versa. But, what we find is, although there's no definite rule as to who is who, what I can say is we become what we decide we want to be. Like at some point, we each decided what sort of parent we want to be. If we decide that harsh parenting didn't work for us, then we decide we want to be a softer parent. If we decided that, having parents who are working all the time, didn't work for us, then we decide that we want to be parents who are at home with our children all the time. we make certain decisions. You know, if we didn't have a parent who was very loving, then we decide that we want to be, you know, a very loving parent. So there are moments in your life, key moments, where you make a decision about what sort of parent you want to be. And, you know, or we decide, for example, that, you know, we want to be a softer parent, you know, and we want to, if we decide that that's what's needed, then we lean towards that type of parenting. And whatever we decide becomes the more dominant type of parenting we adopt. And also your parenting style comes from what you're exposed to, as well as who you decide you want to be. Because you may decide you want to be a certain type of parent, or you've not made that decision really consciously. And so what happens is you might find yourself falling into default and behaving like your own parents. And, you know, in the good and the bad, in the things that you didn't like about how they did it. So if this is what's happened in your relationship and your child, and has started reacting in this way, has been like this for a while, and they're just not listening to you, they're very angry, they're very disrespectful, and you know that your co-parenting, you know, with your husband jumps from one extreme to another, either yourself or both of you, that you're polar opposites, or you behave in, you know, in different ways at different times, then my advice to you is look for the middle ground. Work with your husband to find the middle ground of being gentle, nurturing and strong leaders, not aggressive, but strong leaders. And as you both start to see as you're both probably seeing the impact of extreme parenting styles, it will be easier to see that the middle ground is what is needed. Plus, the Prophet ﷺ advised us to always find the middle ground. And he, ﷺ, he was, you know, an example of a gentle, nurturing and strong leader who was never aggressive. Often when we think about, you know, the example of our Prophet ﷺ, we do think that, well, we can't be like him. You know, I hear this a lot. Well, we can't be like him, you know. However, when we remember that he was sent to us as an example to follow, then regardless of us being able to emulate him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, exactly, we must still try. So if you're sometimes thinking, well, yes, I can't be like him, but we do have to try. And I would say to you that learning to manage our emotions and not fall into getting angry, you know, extremely angry and extreme, you know, and reacting harshly, or, you know, when we withdraw and refuse to deal with our child. So when we fall into fight or flight, when we can manage our emotions to stop those two extreme reactions, then we're on the, you know, it becomes a lot easier to then follow the example that we want to follow, of how to deal with our child. So learning to stop, you know, reacting, you know, at the extremes is our first step. And this is something that I help the mothers that I work with achieve, so that they learn to be able to manage their own reactions and responses in order to be able to give the best of themselves and get the best out of their child. The other thing that I work with my clients to do is when you know, and this is very common as well, when, you know, their husband is, you know, unwilling to discuss or change his parenting style at all. And so then what we do is, because I work with Muslim mothers, and by working with her alone, when she's able to create an amazing relationship with her children and become a leader that they want to follow, that they respect, then her husband starts to see a different way of getting that child's respect without having to be too strict or too soft. So once he sees that example in his own home, it really does help to see, you know, a better way. So, you know, if you're in a situation where, you know, your parenting approach has gone to extremes and, you know, you've disconnected from your child and you'd like some help to repair that disconnection and create an amazing relationship with your child and become that sort of leader that they respect and want to follow, then, you know, let's have a chat. Book a professional consultation with me by clicking the link below, and we can make, you know, look at what's going on for you and make a plan of how to change it by working together. And if all the appointments are taken and you can't find a suitable time, do send me an email at connect@happyhomecoaching.com, and we can find a time that works. Also, if please do like and share this podcast and subscribe for future episodes, and you'll be the first then to receive offers that I give out, free workshops and future episodes. So inshallah, I hope that you've benefited from today's podcast. May helped you to have looked at a different way of parenting, maybe confirmed your suspicions of why things aren't working at home, and giving you a way forward, a way that you can change things with confidence that yes, you can find the middle ground, and that will always be what helps your child thrive and do well in life, inshallah. We'll leave it there. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Have a great day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.